In chess, there are certain strategic concepts that every player must learn and thoroughly understand. Why are these concepts important? These strategic concepts are important because you're going to be faced with them in every game you play over and over again. This was a game between Nakamura and Caruana. It's the two knights defense. Eco code C58. The game started off with Nakamura having the white pieces and Fabi playing the black side. E4, E5, knight F3, knight C6, and bishop C4, attacking black's weakest square on the board, the F7 square. Knight F6 was played in the game. The other move is bishop C5, getting a grip on the D4 square. And after C3, knight F6. The two main moves here for white are D3 and D4. D3, D6, castle, A5, H3, H6, and rook E1 for more quieter lines. Or you can play D4. E takes D4 and white continues. Pawn at E5. Now, in one of my previous videos entitled World Chess Super Bowl, I already covered this line in a brief illustration. I have posted the link in the description of this video, and you can check it out at the end of this video if you wish. But in the game, knight F6 was played, and the game continued. Knight G5, D5, E takes D5, knight A5, bishop B5 check, C6, D takes C6, B takes C6, and bishop D3. Knight D5, knight F3, bishop D6, castle, knight F4. Knight C3, knight takes D3, C takes D3. Castle, B3, rook E8, rook E1, C5. Bishop A3, knight C6 was played. Another interesting move is F5, after which the line continues. Knight B5, bishop B8, bishop takes C5, E4. D takes E4, F takes E4, Knight on F to D4, A6, Knight C3, Knight B7, Knight takes E4. Now Rook takes E4 and exchange sacrifice. And after Rook takes E4, Knight takes C5. The other move is Bishop A6. And the line goes Knight E4, Bishop takes D3, Knight on F to G5, Bishop E7, Queen F3, Bishop takes G5, Knight takes G5, and Bishop G6. But in the game, Knight C6 was played. And the line, Knight E4, Bishop F8, Rook C1, F5 was played. White is attacking the C5 pawn with 3 pieces. And the only pieces defending it is the bishop on F8. Always remember to answer a threat with a threat if possible. You accept the disadvantage of the weak pawn on C5, but your advantage is attacking the pawn on D3. For example, a better try is Knight B4. Now you have both the queen and the knight attacking the pawn on D3. This move threatens the pawn on D3 with the knight, after which the knight will fork both rooks on C1 and E1. And the line continues. Bishop takes B4, C takes B4, Knight C5, Queen D5, and with this move both the Queen on D5 and Bishop F8 attack the Knight on C5. D4, you can't capture because the pawn is pinned to the rook. Bishop G4, adding more pressure to the Knight on F3. H3, Bishop takes F3, Queen takes F3, and Queen takes D4. Rook C4, and after Queen takes D2, Black wins a pawn but also attacks the rook on E1. But in the game, F5 was played, and the game continued. Knight takes C5, Queen D5, Queen C2, Rook D8, Queen C4, Queen takes C4, Rook takes C4, Rook D5, Rook EC1, Bishop D6, and Bishop B2. Knight E7, Rook on 4 to C2, Rook B8, D4, E takes D4, Knight takes D4, A5, Knight F3, H6, Knight A4, Bishop A6. In the game, Knight C3 was played. Another move to consider here would be rook to e1. But after knight c3, rook c5, bishop a3, rook c6, bishop takes d6, rook takes d6, knight a4, knight d5, rook c6, rook c6 was played. Another move to consider here would be rook on b to d8, creating a battery on the d file. And after knight e5, knight f4, rook takes d6, rook takes d6. And not only is the pawn on d2 hanging, but the knight threatens to fork the king and the rook on e2. Lastly, king g8 has loofed to step off the back rank should white ever deliver a check. Rook c2, knight e2 check. King f1 is not playable due to the discovery check, and therefore king h1, rook d5, gaining tempo on the knight. Knight c4, knight d4, black gained tempi, and now rook b2. But in the game, rook takes c6 was played, and the game continued. Rook takes c6, knight b4, rook d6, bishop b7, knight c3, rook e8, h4, and f4 was played. Another move to consider would have been knight to d4, after which black will respond f3. Now white probably didn't go for this line because it's a little scary with black's rook being on e8 and the fact that the bishop on b7 aims at the king along the diagonal there. For example, g takes f3, rook f8. Now two pieces are attacking the pawn on f3, but white will continue king g2, knight d3, and it does look scary. Now this may be hard to play in a game under rapid time controls. Knight on c to e2, knight e1 check, king g3, knight takes f3, knight e6, rook e8, knight on 2 to f4, g5, h takes g5, knight takes g5, knight takes g5, h takes g5, and after this, white regains the pawn after rook g6. Now this is not easy to calculate in a game that is played under rapid time controls. So that may be the reason that white didn't go for this line, but instead play rook to d4. And the game continued. Rook f8, knight e5, rook e8, knight c4, f3, gf3, bishop f3, king h2, knight c2, rook d3, bishop a8, king g3, king h7, knight e3, knight b4, rook d6, knight c6, knight on c to d5, rook f8, knight c7. Bishop b7 and knight e6, rook f7, f4, bishop a8, h5. You cutting off squares, denying your opponent access to key squares. White is confining black to the first two ranks, or should I say the 7th and 8th rank. Rook a7, a3, and king g8. f5, rook e7, king f4. The king is more valuable in the endgame. So when you're in the endgame, that's the time to start bringing the king, marching your king towards the center. Rook a7, d4, king f7, d5, king e7, rook takes c6, bishop takes c6, d takes c6, king d6, c7, king d7, and knight d5. Now what you're about to see is another concept, or should I say principle, in that if it is possible, do not allow opposing knights to swarm around your king. Try to get rid of those knights. After rook a8, you get a fork on b6. If rook a6, you get a fork on c5. And if rook b7, you get a fork on c5. Black conceded the game to white. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for my next video.